the question we are going to discuss is how religions can be seen as key integrating factors in the process of constructing identities in societies and cultures. Religion, unfortunately, should be the most unifying and most integrating and most elevating factor in society. Unfortunately, a religion is being used by several people and groups as a disintegrating and conflict-producing lever, which is very unfortunate. In this context, many people think that religion itself is to blame and therefore remove the idea of religion itself from society so that conflicts can be removed. It is just like Swami Vivekananda said, in order to cure the headache, cut off the head. Why do you have a headache? Because you have a head. So the head is removed, the headache automatically goes away. That cannot be the solution. Swami Vivekananda, to which tradition I belong, said a religion is not at fault, but the Pharisees and Sadducees who use a religion for commercial and selfish purposes. The whole conflict of religion between the priests on the one hand and the prophets on the other define the history of religion. Be it Jesus, who took up on the money changers and then whipped them away, or be it the Buddha in India, or the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who was an avatara. They have always been facing this conflict that a religion on the one hand liberates people, gives them direct access to God without the middlemen with their kickbacks. But the priestcraft will not allow that because their personal selfish interests will go. And therefore, to be able to use religion and revivify it and make it an integrating factor in society, in the process of defining identity in society, in cultures and so on, what is important is to reinvigorate religion and discover the basic principles of religion and intensify them as exemplified and lived by the great prophets of the world religions. So each religion has its own identity. Identity itself is important, but identity should not make a religious group get into conflict with others saying my religion and your religion, which religion is superior. Swami Vivekananda spoke about this in the famous World Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893. It began 11th of September, ended in 17th September, and he said, every religion has produced men and women of exalted character of spirituality. In the face of this evidence, if anybody thinks his religion is superior and the other religions are inferior or wrong, I pity them from the bottom of my heart. And upon the banner of every religion will soon be written, in spite of resistance, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension. Religion is such a powerful force and that has to be utilized for elevation of mankind, peace and harmony, which is the real and central purpose of religion. The fundamental principles of religion have to be rediscovered, revivified and brought to the forefront rather than the accretions which has come to religion. I will just end by a quote by Swami Vivekananda, in which he said the following: each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature external and internal. Do this either by work, worship, psychic control or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas, rituals or temples or books or learning are but secondary details. So the second question we are now discussing is how taking the lives and teachings of the great mystics, religious prophets of various world religions, how we can eliminate or reduce the differentiating aspects of the various religions. This is a very interesting question because every religion has produced extraordinary prophets. At the head of each religion is an extraordinarily spiritual religious prophet. Just like the Jesus the Christ in Christianity, Buddha in Buddhism, and in Hinduism we have so many prophets, we call them incarnations and avatars. Now, the mystical and the spiritual experiences of these great religious leaders are almost identical, although they are closed in different languages. Just like so many people speak different languages, the content may be the same or almost the same. These religious leaders spoke in the same language. Everybody taught universal love, purity, truthfulness, harmony, and peace. And a religion, as we just now discussed, is how the individuality can be transcended and the universality attained. Every human being is born an individual, thinks of himself as a small individual, encased in a body, conditioned by a mind, certain ideas and predilections, without realizing that he is a chip of the infinite. In the language of devotion, we can call him or her as a child of God. In the language of jnana or bhakti in the Hindu tradition, he is the Atman, the eternal, undying, undecaying soul or the Atman, which is never born and never dies, which is infinite and vast, which is in principle the eternal Sat, Chit, Ananda Swarupa, existence absolute, knowledge absolute, and bliss absolute. Unfortunately, encased in this body and the mind, buffeted by 100,000 problems, a human being thinks is a little insignificant personality. As is said, funnily, we are conglomeration of carbon atoms crawling pathetically on the grain of cosmic dust which is called the earth. That is exactly not we are. We appear to be. Our real nature is something which is infinite and vast, which encompasses the entire universe. This has been the realization of all the religious leaders. Jesus the Christ said on the one occasion, I and my Father are one. On another occasion he said, I and my Father in heaven. So when you have the realization of the infinity and the vastness and feel oneness with the infinity, you have a transcendental realization. When you come out of it and you feel, you remain as an eternal child of God. This aspect of the mystical realization of all the worldly teachers, if it is interpreted in the modern idiom, decoupled and deconstructed from the various languages in which they have been expressed according to their tradition, will now form the fundamental core of the unification process of all religions. Religions, all of them have the fundamental spiritual realization and the mystical feelings of the masters. What to speak of religion? Even in science, in the higher realms of science, the topmost scientist is Albert Einstein, for example. He has felt that mystical realization and oneness with nature is the core of science. I am very fond of quoting some of the definitions of religion given by Einstein. He said, my religion consists of a humble adoration of an illimitable intelligence which our dull faculties can comprehend only the most primitive form. He also said, the most sublime and the most intense feeling which can have, the profound feeling is the sensation of the mystical. It is truly the source of all science, he to whom this emotion is a stranger, who cannot any longer stand and wonder in rapt awe, is as good as dead. To know what is impenetrable really exists, manifesting itself with the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty, which our dull faculties can comprehend only in the most primitive form. This feeling is at the center of all religious consciousness. This mystical consciousness is truly the mainspring of all scientific research. If you look at religion from this point of view of mystical realization of the great prophets, and not only them, the followers of every religion has produced extraordinary spiritual and mystical geniuses. You can quote the example of St. Francis of Assisi and St. Teresa of Avila and St. John of the Cross and a host of others in the Christian religion and Jewish religion, in the Hindu religion, in the Buddhism. Every religion has produced extraordinary spiritual mystical geniuses who speak the same language. If you can bring that to the forefront and educate ourselves and the society that this is the main purpose of all religion, although each religion is conditioned by the circumstances in the history in which it was born, these are not really the essentials of religion. Essentials and non-essentials have to be completely separated out. The ritualistic part, the philosophical part, the theological part, and the performance of in various traditions in day-to-day life may differ, but the core of it is the mystical consciousness and the transcendental realization of these great prophets. If that can be highlighted and projected as the fundamental essence of religion, then there is a great hope of all religions coming together in a very harmonizing effect. It is just like I give a very simple example to my students. I go to a super mall or a supermarket, which is a concept which has come a couple of decades ago, and you want to purchase something, you purchase that and walk away. You don't set fire to the remainder. Why should you? So each person has his own choices. Each person has his or her own thing to choose. So you choose what you like in a particular religion, the way in which you look at it, and the way in which the great prophets have realized, and be satisfied. Sri Ramakrishna, the tradition in which I come, was one of the outstanding mystical and spiritual geniuses of India in the 18th, 19th century. He made a very profound statement. As an ant went to a sugar hill, and it was so greedy it wanted to eat more, but he can't. It has a very small stomach. It ate one grain, it filled its stomach, took another in the mouth, and was walking away, and looked back and said, next time on, I will push the whole sugar hill into my small hole. The infinite and the vastness of the majesty of God is so profound that human beings can comprehend only in a small way, but that is good enough for us. What little we can take from the infinite mystical consciousness of the prophets is fulfilling to us, and with that fulfillment and joy, let us spread joy to others and live a life of great spiritual wisdom and elevation. Thank you.